Today, we're diving into a story with a simple yet really powerful title, The Day He Stopped Running. And I have a feeling this one is going to feel very, very familiar to a lot of you. So let me just ask you this straight up. Have you ever felt like you're just always late in life? You know that feeling, right? That constant nagging sense that you're falling behind, that the clock is just ticking way too fast for you? Yeah, if that sounds familiar, this story is definitely for you. All right, so let's get into it. Let's meet our guy, Daniel. For Daniel, life was nothing but a constant race. His entire world, his whole reason for being, was built on this one single relentless idea. You just have to keep running, no matter what. He basically lived by this intense personal mantra. And the first rule of that mantra was simple: run faster. You always had to be quicker than the next person. Outwork them, outpace them, just always be one step ahead. Okay, so that's rule number one. Rule number two? Achieve more. See, in Daniel's mind, the finish line was always moving. You could never, ever rest on what you'd already done. You had to constantly pile on more accomplishments because standing still was the same as going backwards. And that brings us to the final and probably the most brutal rule of his race. Fall behind and you lose. That's it. The stakes were absolute. This wasn't some game you could just pause and come back to later. Nope, this was a race, and the only option was to win. And this mindset, it shaped his entire day, starting from the literal second he woke up. Before his feet even hit the floor, what was he doing? He was on his phone, scrolling, comparing. Every single morning, it was the same story. He'd see someone who was richer, someone who looked happier, someone who was just ahead. And the result? He kicked off every single day with this crushing feeling of being late, always late. But then, one evening, after another completely exhausting day of running this impossible race, something shifted, something totally unplanned, totally unexpected. He missed his train home. So there he is, sitting on the platform, probably fuming, just staring at the empty tracks. And an old woman comes and sits down nearby. She wasn't on her phone, she wasn't fidgeting, she wasn't rushing, she just sat. And the contrast is just so stark, isn't it? Daniel is this whole internal storm of anxiety, and she's just calm, present. It was like she was from a different world. And he couldn't help himself. He had to ask. He leaned over and asked her the one question that was at the very core of his own anxiety. "Don't you worry about time?" Her reply, wow, this was the moment everything changed. She just kind of smiled and said, "I used to." Then I realized time wasn't chasing me. I was chasing an idea. Wow. I mean, for Daniel, hearing his own frantic thoughts spoken so calmly out loud by a stranger, it was just staggering. It stopped him cold. Yeah, that one little sentence, it just blew the doors wide open to a totally new perspective for him. A piece of wisdom that was about to change absolutely everything. Then she followed it up with another question, and I really want you to think about this one for yourself too. She asked him, when was the last time you felt proud of yourself, not for what you achieved, but just for who you are? And Daniel, he had nothing. No answer. He literally couldn't find the words. And then she just pointed toward the tracks and gave him this simple but incredibly powerful metaphor. She said, trains don't all arrive at the same time, but they still reach their destination. What a perfect way to reframe this whole idea of life's timelines, right? So that night, Daniel didn't wait for the next train. He walked home. And that walk, well, it turned out to be the real start of his journey, the first step in learning a completely new pace for his life. So what did this new approach actually look like? Well, it started with some really small, practical things. Step one, he stopped the constant checking. He just put the phone down, breaking that toxic cycle of comparison. Step two, he made a conscious choice to stop measuring his own progress against anyone else's timeline. And step three, he simplified his focus, just bringing it down to one day, one task, one honest effort. And this was not some overnight fix, not at all. Day one was literally just about noticing the world around him on that walk home, maybe for the first time in years. But a few weeks later, the effects were real. He was calmer, his thinking was clearer, he felt stronger. And after about a year, he finally truly got it. Life was never supposed to be a race. It was a journey. And this transformation, it's just incredible when you lay it out. Before, his whole mindset was racing, comparing, and chasing. And after, well, racing was replaced by calm. Comparing was replaced by being grounded. And chasing, that just became living. And what's amazing is that this huge internal shift he was going through, it started showing on the outside. People around him actually started to notice. Friends, coworkers, they'd say things like, "You seem different," or "You feel more grounded." It just proves that this isn't a lesson you explain, it's a change you have to live. Which brings us to the end of his story, the final resolution. About a year after he missed that train, Daniel found himself back at that same station. But this time, everything had changed. He wasn't anxiously checking the time or worrying about the schedule. He had finally understood the beautiful, ultimate paradox of his whole journey. The moment he stopped running was the moment he finally started moving forward. So I guess the question I'll leave you with is this. What race are you running? And what do you think might happen if you just decided to stop?